personal car, 2015 Ford Fiesta ST. So, everybody talks about the Fiesta and, how it's one of the greatest front-wheel drive cars for the money that there is. And they're absolutely right. I've had many cars over my driving career and history. I actually traded my BMW 135i with M Sport suspension and a 7-speed clutch for this car. I've never ever liked front-wheel drive cars, but this car is very, very satisfying. One of the reasons that I got rid of the BMW was it was getting boring, to be honest with you. This car is just so much fun. It puts such a smile on your face whenever you drive it. I'll show you some footage later of some back roads, point of view driving that I've taken earlier. the coupe was like a gymnastics event. Very difficult to get in and out. I only have one child, so I don't need a ton of room, and I have a big SUV as our family vehicle, so you don't need two big vehicles. But this does have 4 seats. You know, they're not the biggest, but I can sit back in there for an hour or so. I'll be back there for more longer than that. But certainly, my daughter and friends can get in and out. Cargo space, you know, somewhat limited, but very functional. The driving experience of this car is phenomenal. The gearbox, very, very smooth. Some people complain about the long throws of the gearbox. I find it quite acceptable. And to be honest with you, very, very precise and very, very smooth. You know, next to a Honda transmission, this is a very, very smooth transmission. The clutch is super light, super easy to drive. It's just very, very satisfying. The steering feel of this car is unbelievable. It's very, very, very accurate, very precise, very sharp. And there's not much understeer at all. For a front-wheel drive car, this thing turns in like you won't believe. You can get the rear to rotate very easily just by lifting off a little bit. You know, the real drawback of the car is, you know, it doesn't have a true limited LSD in the front. It's got the brake activation that acts like a LSD. So if you're autocrossing or tracking the car a lot, you're going to wear your front brake pads out pretty quickly. But other than that, performance driving-wise, this car is just phenomenal. Daily driving is great. Ride is on the firm side, but certainly not unacceptable. And cruising on the highway like this, you're going to get an average about 35 to 38 miles to the gallon on a long trip on the highway. So it gets phenomenal gas mileage. Here into the boost, I still get 24. So it's a great car in terms of, you know, we're on the highway now, so you can see ride-wise, it's not too bad. I find the seats, a lot of people go for the Recaro seats. I am a little bit on the bigger side, so I tried the Recaro seats and they were just god-awful. You'd have to be 150 pounds or less to fit in those Recaro seats. They were just ridiculous. These seats I find are quite nice. They hug you, they're not super bolstery. So if you're autocrossing, you know, you may have to hold on a little bit tighter, but I don't really have any issues with it. I primarily have another autocross car, a Mazda Miata, an STR trip that I use for racing, but this car certainly is a great car for autocrossing as well. In terms of turbo lag, you know, there's very minimal turbo lag. This thing has a boatload of torque. It makes it feel faster than it really is. So, I mean, the specs are 197 horsepower, 202 foot-pounds of torque, but that's at 19 psi. Okay, this car is 21 psi overboost for 20 seconds. So most people are finding on the dyno they're putting down at the wheels what they say at the crank. So this car is, you know, very, very, certainly not fast, but it's quick and it's very fun, and the torque makes it so drivable. A lot of torque. That's what makes this car feel faster than it really is. The brakes are very, very strong. They have a good feel to them. Some people find they're a little touchy. certainly not the most progressive brakes in the world, but very strong, stops the car very well. Plenty of boost there. I mean, lots of passing power. Even on the highway, you can stay in 5th gear or 6th gear. Don't need to shift. Plenty of boost to pass. Of course, I'm behind a big truck right now, trying to merge on the highway. Speaking of that, the mirrors. You know, some people don't like the double mirrors. I personally like them once you get used to them. You know, certainly you don't have blind spot monitoring or anything. Once you get used to the mirrors, I tend to like them a lot. I can really see what's in my blind spot very well. So I don't find that a problem at all. You know, the interior, you know, it's a Fiesta. It's not a high-end car, you know, it's an economy car. But everything that you need and you interact with is perfectly fine. The steering wheel is good. I find that these ribs get in the way a little bit. I don't like the way the steering wheel could be a little bit better, but it's certainly not bad. Shifter's great, clutch is great. The big downfall is the gas pedal. Way too far down. You can't heel and toe. I mean, you can, but you've got to be a gymnast to do it. So I find that there's a spacer that you can get that brings the pedal up for heel and toe. So that's my one main gripe with the car. The rest of the interior certainly is, you know, I personally just like the basics. Cars are getting so complicated these days. You got to push freaking screens and buttons for everything. It gets just to be a pain in the butt. This, I just adjust my temperature, adjust where I want it to go, push buttons. You do have the sync here, Microsoft Sync, for voice commands. I find that it's sketchy in terms of it works, but my phone connects very well, very easily, easy to set up. Pandora plays perfectly through here, no issues with Pandora. So that is good. In terms of connectivity, navigation is good. I like the navigation system. It's the way that it gives you the next command and shows you. It's very detailed. So I like that a lot. So I mean, interior is somewhat basic, but it gets the job done in terms of what you want to do. So, I mean, we're cruising along here at highway speeds, 6th gear, you know, no issues. Certainly not a rough ride. It's a firm ride, but it's just, you know, well, once and done. It's not a real floaty. And certainly passing torque will be right there. So, yeah, you got a lot of torque. This car is I just think it's just hilarious. You know, so the other question is if it's so fun to drive, you know, everybody gets in, you can't help but put a smile on your face. But does that get tiring? And the answer to that is no, it does not. Because the controls are very light, the car is very functional for day-to-day activities. It doesn't become annoying when you're driving it on a day-to-day basis at all. So you have that super fun factor for back roads when you absolutely want to hoon it. You can autocross it, have a fantastic time. But you want to go to take your kids to school, you want to go to the grocery store, you want to go wherever, just putts along in 6th gear. But you got plenty of passing power, very accurate steering, solid brakes. It's a great car to drive on a daily basis. What else does everybody not like about the Fiesta? You got the deer that got clobbered. That's good. Anyway, so the gauges, gauges I find are absolutely fine. They're very functional, very easy to read, nothing overcomplicated. Once again, no fancy computerized systems for any of that. Temperature, very easy to adjust. The other thing too is value for money. You look at this car, I mean, I got the car fairly cheaply because the dealer that it was at doesn't generally get in performance products. They generally don't get any ST products. Their Mustangs don't have the track packs. I got this car in and just sitting on the lot for 3.5 months, and I had driven in another dealer and they wouldn't deal with me. And so I went to this dealer and, like, you're either going to sell it to me or you're going to have to deal or trade it. And so I ended up getting a really good deal. But I mean, generally you're looking at, you know, under $22,000. This has the navigation, sunroof. I wouldn't really need a sunroof, but it came with the option of the navigation, the sunroof, the red painted calipers, and the gray Rado wheels. So it came with all of those things. Now, for the 16 model year, the gray Rado wheels are standard, as are the painted calipers. So for 16, if anybody wants to buy a new one, those things are already included, which is nice. Camera, but that is, it's on my head, and obviously my head moves around a lot when I would drive, so that doesn't give you an idea of anything. It just looks like it's going to make you nauseous, so I don't know how much of that footage I'm going to include in this video. Very minimal, but it puts the power down fairly well. Just a blast to drive. I find the engine very smooth too, and how it revs. It's not noisy at all. It's very smooth, sort of mechanical, very satisfying. Trailer on a back road. That's just fantastic. Anywho, we'll putz along here. I know where he's going, so we'll have to deal with it for about another 1.5 miles here. The other good thing about this car is you can turn stability and traction control completely off. You hold the ESC button, you push the ESC button once, puts you in sport mode, push it down and hold it, and you'll see there'll be a little progressive bar that goes across, and it will completely deactivate everything, which is nice. So many cars these days you can't turn off all the electronic nannies. So it's refreshing to have a car that you can turn all that stuff off and have a pure driving experience, which is good. It does have some nice features. I mean, it does have automatic headlights, which is, that's pretty decent. It has pretty much everything that I would want. When you hear that backfire, how sweet. Well, why is he going this way? Alright. Well, we'll go the other way, even though it's hard to get out and see when we get up here. The other nice thing is if you have a spouse or someone you're learning to, if you've never had a manual transmission car before, this has a hill holder feature, which is sort of nice. So it keeps the brakes applied for 2 seconds, which makes it very nice for people who are afraid, you know, finding that friction point on hills. Just a blast to drive. I mean, it's just a hoon of a car. And you know, to be honest, it's, you know, I was looking at the new Focus RS come out. I'm like, you know, that seems like that'd be fantastic. But in, you know, the real world grand scheme of things, you know, that car's, most of them are over 40,000. One at the dealer was 44,000. You know, they're upcharging price for those cars. And I'm hopefully going to go sit and drive one here shortly. But most people are saying the deal breaker for that car is the seats. And this is a dangerous intersection here, especially when people in minivans, mothers, come flying over the hill, which is always nice. I just love how people in minivans drive worse than people that have sports cars. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But the new Focus RS, in terms of, you know, the seats, I have back issues, and I have to have a seat that doesn't have a real high forward pitch that pitches you back like this, but the front of the cushion is up. Puts a lot of pressure on your hamstrings, puts you into a posterior tilt. It really flexes that lumbar spine. If anybody has any disc issues, certainly not the best thing at all. So they say that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. For me, it would be, even if the car drove fantastic. This car, the seats are comfortable. I can drive it for extended periods. I don't have any complaints about it at all. I actually prefer these seats to the wife's SUV in terms of seats for that. I'm more comfortable in this than that. Certainly these are not BRZ seats, you know, or anything like that, or Evo seats. I mean, seats in a BRZ are, if anybody's ever sat in them, the most fantastic seats you're ever going to experience. They're just fantastic. You know, these seats are good. They're not fantastic, but certainly they're fine for me. But you know, back to the RS. I mean, you look at, you got extra things that go wrong. This is Ford's first year with their you know, that rear power unit with the ability to fully torque vector to each wheel. And I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a video by Savage Geese on the web, and they show the underside of the Focus RS on a lift, and the half shafts for the rear are tiny. You know, that's putting 350 horsepower, you know, to all four wheels. That looks certainly like a weak point of the car. And also, anybody who's tracked it to find that it overheats, goes into sort of a semi-limp mode where, you know, you can't drive the car aggressively. So, you know, that's definitely a drawback. I think, you know, there's a person locally who autocrossed one. He got it just for the last couple events of the year. Certainly didn't have any issues for the short time that you would be autocrossing the car. You know, no issues with that. So, but if you were tracking the car, definitely not be concerned. And the thing has launch control, and it launches, from what I've seen, so hard that I just can't see those half shafts not being a failure point in the future. So, and you put a good set of snow tires on this, which I have some Blizzaks on some cheap wheels. And last year we had that epic storm here in Pennsylvania. We had 36 plus inches of snow, and ground clearance was my only issue, and I was just trudging through the snow. Blizzaks on this thing, I had no issues. So it makes the car a lot lighter, makes it a lot livelier, and it makes it simple, a lot less to go wrong, less to worry about in terms of that. And certainly I drove the Focus ST before I bought this car, and the Focus ST had horrible torque steer compared to this, and it felt huge. And granted, it's a bigger car, but it's not that much bigger, but it felt ginormous compared to this car. This car is just so freaking lively. Just toss it about anywhere you want. And the Focus felt more like a, Mazda Speed 3, where it was just, it was fast in a straight line. You could get lift off, oversteer, get it to rotate, but nothing like this car. Didn't turn in as sharp as this car. Also, I didn't care for the shifter, ironically enough, in the Focus ST compared to this. It was kind of bulkier, it was heavier. How else to explain it? But I really didn't care for that compared to this car. Also, the seats in the Focus ST are similar to the RS in that you sit a lot lower than you do in this car, which is, I don't have any problem with that, sitting low, but the front seat cushion is raked up really, really high. I just didn't find them comfortable for me, but that's a personal preference for many people, what they like in their particular car. But the Focus ST was certainly more expensive than this, but this was a ton more fun. If you don't need that little bit more extra room, get the Fiesta ST. I don't think many people will be disappointed in terms of the fun factor. And also, it's fairly practical. Yeah, it's small, but it was perfect for me because I like small cars, I like nimble cars, but I like to have 4 seats, 4 doors, especially for my daughter hauling her friends around. And, you can carry adults back there, or, probably they're not going to ride around there forever, but certainly you can carry them around without any issues. So for me, if you don't need that extra size, the Fiesta is a fantastic car. It's a fantastic package. Really can't go wrong with it at all. And in terms of reliability, I haven't had any issues with the car. Had it for a year and a half now. Haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. Just regular oil changes. The oil's very easy to change in this yourself. Filter and drain plug are very accessible, very easy to do. So I haven't had any reliability issues whatsoever. Haven't had any recalls or anything like that either. So overall, I would highly recommend the Fiesta ST to anybody who wants a hot hatch, especially who likes a car that they can drive daily. You can drive it in all seasons, just put a set of snows on it. Can autocross it. It's really a very multi-purpose car that you can pretty much do just about anything you want with, which is fantastic. It's like the little Swiss Army knife of cars in terms of that. Certainly if you're into luxury and whatnot, it's probably not the car for you. But if you have a passion about cars and you like cars for the driving experience and the connectedness, you're going to enjoy this car a lot. So, if you like this video, guys, please subscribe. It's my first video on my new channel, Kettler on Cars. I'm going to review my own cars here first, personally, and then if I get enough likes and people enjoy what they're seeing, I certainly will put more cars on there. I'll see what I can get my hands on to test drive for you guys and give you my impressions of them, certainly. Also, you guys can put any comments or suggestions. That would be very good. And you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope you enjoyed the video.